Getting online grocery profitable is very much a numbers game. And if you are looking at all of those input metrics that drive your output metrics, for me, it's, I wouldn't say quite simple, but it seems like a bit of a no-brainer.
Welcome to Beyond the Pick, where we explore the latest innovations in robotics and AI for supply chains. I'm Andre, Chief Growth Officer at Brightpick, and I'm really excited for our guest today. Vineta Bajaj is CFO at Rohlik Group, one of the world's largest and most innovative online grocers. Rohlik is a truly disruptive force in the field of online grocery delivery. It offers customers unparalleled speed, such as 90-minute delivery and 15-minute delivery slots for free, as well as a wide product assortment that rivals even your largest supermarkets. Most incredibly, it does all of this profitably, in large part thanks to its heavy investment in robotics, AI, and supply chain. Last year, Rohlik served more than 800,000 customers and delivered almost 12 million orders across 5 countries in Europe. But Vineta's background in e-grocery goes much deeper than that. In fact, she previously held various senior finance roles at ex-Ocado Group, one of the earliest pioneers in e-grocery. She's one of the most knowledgeable people I know when it comes to strategy and execution in the challenging field of online grocery delivery. Let's dive right in. Vineta, you've been in the online grocery space for over a decade, so you've seen all of the ups and downs. Why is e-grocery so hard to get right?
I don't think it is. I think online grocery is about data, it's about numbers, and it's about precision. We often talk about warehouse automation being, precise. We talk about how you can bring in more customers. We all talk about margin, but ultimately it comes down to precision of data. Getting online grocery profitable is very much a numbers game. And if you are looking at all of those input metrics that drive your output metrics, for me, it's, I wouldn't say quite simple, but it seems like a bit of a no-brainer.
And I think a lot of people underestimate the supply chain complexity involved in e-grocery. I mean, you're dealing with perishable products, multiple temperature zones, constantly evolving SKU range. What implications does that have for margins and profitability?
In what sense?
So, for example, many grocers, they tend to limit their SKU range because they need to achieve profitability. So it's almost like a give or take where you need to take away some customer service or some customer choice in order to achieve profitability.
But that's the trick, right? The trick is not to limit the customer. One of our important values, or as we call them ingredients in our business, is amazing the customer. The customer, and not literally the customer is always right, it's the customer. If I'm in a business where I'm choosing to limit my customer, I'm never going to get profitable because the customer will choose not to shop with me. So I'm not saying have the widest, craziest range. I'm saying having the right range for the customer that we're targeting is what we do as a business. And we focus on making sure we have the right space, whether it's in fresh, ambient, chill, or frozen. And then on top of that, for us as a business, we have market-leading food waste levels where our waste is only 0.4%, which is absolutely unheard of in this industry. And that's because we order what our customers would like. We make sure they have the right value assortment. They ultimately buy from us. And as a result, the P&L works, the unit economics of the business work. The beauty of online grocery versus a bricks and mortar business or a hybrid business is that if you deliver everything to one location, it goes to all the customers from one location. It's not going from the supplier to a hub and spoke model to a store, or a supplier to a hub and spoke model to a warehouse that then goes to the consumer. And so I think that from a pure play online perspective, it's about having the right algorithms and predictions to understand what the customer may or may not order, what's happening in the world. Is there a large sporting event? Is it going to be sunny this long bank holiday weekend, for example? Will people be going away? Will people staying at home? And then ordering for that. And I think the beauty of being a same-day grocer means that we can order knowing that it will go out pretty quick. So I really don't see the complexity. I think the complexity is driven for other businesses that there is likely a view of not looking at data. And for us, especially when you're an online pure play, there are, days and years of data where I can understand how a customer shops on a public holiday weekend. I can understand what they order when it's sunny. I can also understand what was the most successful product and not successful product around Christmas. And then from there, I can curate how I do my supply chain to make sure that, again, I have the right amount of products so the customer isn't limited, while also managing my waste levels. Because, by the way, waste costs money. It's one thing if I donate it to charity, it's still money out of my bank, right? And yes, I can give it to charity, but actually I want to make sure that I'm ordering it and using it for my business.
Got it. It's very interesting. You mentioned one thing there, which is a single location. And one of the, let's say, trends in online groceries nowadays is MFCs and using traditional grocers' existing footprint to fulfill customer orders, which obviously Rohlik doesn't do because it's a pure play online grocer. What are the advantages and maybe disadvantages that come with being a pure play online grocer?
I think you've answered half the question, which is if you're an online grocer, firstly, there's less stop points, right? So I order milk, and if I order milk, if I'm a bricks and mortar, or if I'm a hybrid where I'm utilizing my footprint to try and fulfill click and collect or store pick orders, what happens is the milk goes to probably a regional spoke. It then goes to it might go to another spoke, and then it might go to the store, and then the store. So it's probably gone in and out of about 3 or 4 different chiller ambient zones, right? And then by the time it gets from there to the customer, it's probably been from the supplier to the customer within maybe, I wouldn't say 1 to 3 days maybe. While when you're an online pure play, the milk that is received in the morning is in your fridge in the evening or in the afternoon or whenever you order. And so it's fresher than what you would get from any store you walk into in any city, which is like amazing, and people don't kind of get that. So I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages, is that what you get is the freshest from a pure play retailer like us, and it also means that the quality of the food is good. As I said, it's not going in and out of different temperature zones. I think the other, and like you said, with micro-fulfillment centers, that's definitely how the industry has been shaping since in a post-COVID world, where very large warehouses, on the outskirts of a city that then you deliver next day is kind of a thing of the past, or it's definitely becoming a thing of the past. And so having smaller, reasonably sized and priced warehouses that are kind of satellite close to a city, but have the ability to deliver in the city and outside of the city, provide the ability for a business to provide to the customer when they need it, so whatever the offering is, but also expand regionally and into a city. So then the footprint is greater, and that has huge benefits to the P&L.
Let's stay on the topic of customer service for a second, and Rohlik specifically. So I'm a customer of Rohlik's. But I am ashamed to say that until relatively recently, I was a skeptic, because I thought I enjoyed going to the supermarket, choosing my own produce, making sure it's good quality. And I thought that dealing with delivery people would be more hassle than jumping into my car and driving to the supermarket whenever I wanted. And then I decided to give Rohlik a shot, and I was blown away. 15-minute slots all day, delivery drivers which are never late and always happy to carry bags to your front door, even if you live on the 5th floor with no elevator.
Oh, goodness.
A very wide product assortment that exceeds even hypermarkets, and a subscription product which gives you no minimum basket sizes and 90-minute deliveries for just €8 a month. I'm blown away. And I think even more impressively is that Rohlik is able to offer all of this while being profitable at the same time, which is pretty rare in the online grocery space. How do you do that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And actually, just to add to what you said, which was how you were a skeptic, the example of milk that I just described, I also liken it to when you go to the store and you're picking the best quality. But actually, when you go and you're picking the best apple, and you're like, this is the apple, the question anybody who is a skeptic of online grocery should ask is, how many people groped that apple before you groped it?
So I always go for the bottommost one.
But you don't know. They might have gone, oh, no, I'm going to hide that one,
Everyone
right?
does
Everyone, yeah, exactly, right? How many people groped what you're currently eating, right, is definitely a really good example of why you should go online. There's only one, so that low-touch process in online grocery is great. So to your question, how does a business become profitable or just have good unit economics, let's call it that? And I think it's a balance of data and financial management. And I think the other thing is it's to understand where are the biggest levers that are taking in your cost, but also the smaller ones, like waste I talked about. Waste can get pretty big if you're ordering too much produce, and that again costs money every time. For me and for this business and for anybody in online grocery, being able to provide an element or a full amount of automation between your gross margin and your EBITDA is actually an absolute game changer. It reduces my dependency on labor. And labor, no matter how efficient labor is, generally can and can't be reliable. So people get sick. People have personal situations. It happens. Some people are maybe unproductive. This type of inconsistency or instability in the P&L, I want to try and lock my costs for as long as possible. And what automation provides is known throughput. And the investment is our time to make sure it works with our processes. And that is absolutely the only way in online grocery, or even a hybrid, where a business can deliver reasonable CM2 profitability or even EBITDA profitability per order, is being able to manage, once I get to my gross margin, how do I keep the rest of my money? Well, part my marketing, all of it is down to how I fulfill. And fulfillment can be done in many ways. And there are some fantastic technologies out there that allow businesses to automate. Like you said, if I'm a bricks and mortar store and I'm trying to leverage my very hypermarket footprint, I may want to get a store pick technology solution, maybe with a bit of BrightPick. Maybe I want to invest in a large aluminum grid and do that. Maybe it's just a lot of tech and it's people on forklifts. Whatever it is, some element of investment into some kind of tangible physical asset will make your life better. And for that, we have been able to reduce our dependency on some unstable costs. We've also been able to know that there's a certain part of our P&L that's fixed, as it were, because I know there's a certain amount of throughput. And so therefore, the profitability is driven by making sure the volume comes through.
Got it. It's very interesting because at BrightPick, we think of e-grocery in many of the similar ways that you mentioned. And actually, one of the reasons why we decided to heavily focus on e-grocery from the very beginning is because e-grocers need automation to be profitable. Consumers, they're not willing to pay high delivery costs to compensate for last mile fees, which are layered on top of all the other costs that already exist in groceries. And because it's such a low margin business, it basically takes you to negative profitability. So then you need to drive efficiencies elsewhere in your supply chain, such as fulfillment, picking, and so forth.
And just to that point, in a world where multiple countries are going through elements of recession or higher cost of living crises or inflation, what happens is customers are looking at their wallets more. And so some retailers choose to pass the price to the customer more. If you do that, you risk the fact that the customer might leave. So when you're thinking about how you build an online profitable business, the balance is around making sure that you're at the right price point for your customer, number one, and number two, being able to find that balance on fulfillment. But I think the other key point here on fulfillment, to what you said, is many people are skeptical about online grocery, right? I don't have any kids, right? But there are a lot of people during COVID and even before COVID who had kids in that time. And when I grew up, my mom took me around the supermarket on a Friday after school. They gave free samples. It was amazing. Lots of chocolate. And so I visualize aisles because that's how I've been grown up and conditioned. But people kids who are 5 or kids who are 15, they buy on their phone. They buy on their tablets. They do not visualize or say, I'll go to the store. And so people who are skeptics of whether this industry works, or even grocers who are going online, it's a post-COVID world. The answer is there are 5 generations in the workplace that have the ability to buy. There's my parents, and then there's older, my grandparents, my parents, me, Gen Z, and now the younger generation. All of them have the ability to buy, and they are not going to go into the store. So it's not a case of, well, it's a fad, or we only need to have a smaller amount. Over time, the younger generation, people who are 21, do not want to go to the store. You don't want to go to the store. I don't want to go to the store. And so it's a channel shift that is happening that's going to get bigger over time, irrespective of what skeptics say. And if retailers do not get behind and invest in something that allows them to offer that omni-channel approach, they'll be dead in the water long term.
Yeah, and obviously over time, the purchasing power of Gen Z and so forth is only going to increase, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's just something that I have this debate with people many times about, online, and I'm like, and then I talk about the groping the apple. I talk about groping the apple. And I kind of get out all those stories, and it works. But
I'll remember that next time I'm in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of automation, obviously Rohlik is a big investor in automation. As the CFO, how do you evaluate automation? How do you think about the ROI, the payback, and so forth?
For me, personally, obviously I care about the price tag. I'm like, how much is it? What am I getting for it? But actually what I care about is the input metric, which is the throughput. So if I measure myself on UPH, or order lines per man hour, if I look at picks per item, if I look at what is that particular automation that I'm trying to do, and what is it with labor, what is it with automation, what is the saving of that person, why is that process better? Now, with my industry experience, that's how I think. I'm sitting there going, right, Brightpick, we have lots of people walking around. Now we don't, because we use your solution. So I was sitting there going, how many steps does someone take? How long does those steps take? Is it cheaper for me just to rethink my internal process? Or am I better off actually getting something like Brightpick? And if the business decision kind of makes sense, because conceptually I understand as a finance professional, if my productivity is higher, my return on investment will be higher, then it's down to my appetite on how long am I willing to have my ROI and my payback. And that is completely dependent on the current business financial health. It's down to the long-term strategy of the business overall. For me, as a CFO, I'm definitely more in the business than the numbers. I'm very much kind of going, right, what's the prod? What's the impact? Are they inbounding? What's the cost? What's the person going to produce? Will I have to have somebody above it? What's the software around it? What's the hypercare around it? I'm trying to understand the entire process, because then I understand then that it's not just my product X, it's all this hypercare around the bots, and then from there go, right, well then therefore, although this will give me X, my saving will be X labor if I continue to scale, and then what does this look like in 1, 2, 3 years when I'm planning to be this big, and then can this help me scale? So I very much have a long-term strategy thinking going, is this an investment that will scale with us as a business, number one? Number two, what's the prod? Or what is the throughput or productivity or key metric that I can measure and compare to manual labor or my manual process and understand that impact? And then it's just numbers after that. And then I'm like, well, is it in the budget or not? Or can I wait later? And how do I align it with strategy? But I couldn't give you a hard number, because I very much think about the entire end-to-end. Like, it comes into the warehouse, it leaves the warehouse, and all the different efficiencies of the zone. But that's probably just down to my nerdiness and industry experience.
Well, I think that's how people should be thinking about automation. I think one of the interesting parts for us as a vendor as well is that there's obviously the hard numbers and facts and labor savings and costs and all that, but one of the things that's harder to quantify is flexibility. So obviously when you're thinking about automation, there's mobile robot solutions like Brightpick, which require relatively little infrastructure, easy to install, move. There's less flexible type solutions like AutoStore, Cube. As you think about buying automation, how do you take into account flexibility, or I guess the downside risk?
It's a good question. I definitely look at different things like, is there a secondary market for this asset? We also make sure, and I also make sure that, say, contractually, if I don't want to use this for a while, do I have the ability to give it to another vendor or another grocer or somebody else who can use that technology. So I always make sure we have options, even to the point that, like, from a finance professional perspective, making sure that if I buy something, do I have the ability to do a sale and lease back for myself if I'm doing a fully CapEx, right? I think these are all things that, like, a normal financial professional should do. But like, it's going to sound silly, but I don't really see downside risk in automation. And maybe I'm a flawed individual. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, if I invest in this, it will equal X amount of productivity or X amount of key metric, and that will then equal the output of a lower cost per order, which equally turns into less loss per order or more profit per order. Then I think my business is fine. I think the question really is down to measures of how I would finance that investment. So, for example, do I want to spend 5 million, or do I want to do a different type of pricing, like price per pick, or do I want to have uptime metrics and things like that? And I think we as a business and also the industry should be flexible to that, because if you go for a price per pick, it just means that you can go pretty quick. You don't. In a world where money costs a lot of money, you really have to think twice about, and even I'm going, I can put the money in the bank. So it needs to be more than X percentage of interest I can get. You will have a lot of finance people who look at the world like that. But for vendors like yourself and other businesses to offer either a price per pick model or a pay per pick model or some kind of uptime metric allows grocers and also non-grocers to try before you do significant investment. And I think that try before you do significant investment and that agile approach is definitely the way the industry is moving.
Yeah, and we obviously offer what we call robotics as a service, but it's
right.
basically a lease model, and Rohlik piloted our solution before installing it. Speaking of budgets, and cost of money, has the current tighter financing environment affected your appetite for investing in automation?
Not at all. So, like, in the last 18 months, we automated our second warehouse in Czechia, in Prague. We did further automation into our Munich warehouse. We have fully automated our now Berlin warehouse, and we are automating our Vienna warehouse in the last 18 months. Because, again, this business, we believe in online grocery, and that is profitable. And profitability in Central Europe and Western Europe is enabled by automation. Ultimately, if I want to be a prudent and a responsible finance professional, automation in a Western world means that I can reduce my labor by 20 to 50%, depending on my volumes going through. That's a no-brainer to me. The impact will be down to when I should do it, what are the stage gates, or vendors like yourself saying, actually, here's another type of way to buy from us that isn't give us 1, 2, 5 million. It's a as you said, robotics as a service model.
In your mind, how do you compare? How do you think about Rohlik in partnership with Brightpick or other automation vendors to someone like, for example, Ocado, which has their own technology, which they use and obviously sell to others as well?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, as an industry, the industry has, and it's been really, really exciting to see it. The industry has really shifted just before COVID and especially during COVID. Because what happened over COVID is that so many retailers, grocer and non-grocer, had to adapt to some form of online offering. So everyone has done something to try and fulfill this channel. It's kind of forced everyone to go online, which is great, and forced them to provide to a different channel. So different grocery businesses have invested in something, and what's happened as a result is there's been some fantastic startups that have come through that have developed some unique type of robotics or automation or supply chain algorithms. It can be across the entire ecosystem, which means that if I'm a bricks and mortar retailer that changed my hypermarket to have, set it up as a dark store, I may not want to spend a lot of money getting an entire end-to-end because I've already got a warehouse management system. I've already got my time and attendance system, and I've already got my software. And that's all basically written off. And I wouldn't be able to justify that to my CFO if I was them. So getting add-ons to, if I look at my process that's between CM1 and CM2, this part is the one that's leaking this much cash, or it's the most loss-making part, and I need to do something with it. What's happened is the industry has developed to come up with pockets of solutions that all interlink with each other. And I think the industry is going that way because, like I said before, in a world where money costs money, people don't have 10, 20, 30 million to invest on this online channel, but they probably could invest 5 or 1. And there's a plethora of vendors that deal with those solutions. And I think the all-in-one solution definitely is tailored to different types of retailers, but there's a lot of retailers who have already done something that want to talk to a Brightpick or talk to different providers to fix certain parts of their process.
I have one last topic I want to cover with you, which is Rohlik obviously started in Czech Republic, and this is where it has the most advanced offering for customers. I would even go so far as to say globally of all e-grocers. It has the best customer offering in Czech Republic. It's profitable here. And few people know that actually Czechia is one of the most advanced nations in e-commerce in Europe, with a penetration rate that rivals the UK, for example. How did that help Rohlik start early before, branching out to other countries in Europe?
So I'll probably start off by saying that I think Rohlik actually drove that online shift in this country, in the Czech Republic. So I think that's the first thing. That absolute penetration of people learning to shop online absolutely disrupted this entire country and the way the country shops. Right.
It's whenever I drive, I always see a Rohlik van without exception in Prague. It's
they're like everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I know, it's cool. Sorry, what was your question? How
was that an advantage to Rohlik starting?
I don't think it fully impacted, because we're talking 10 years ago, by the way, right? So 10 years ago, it probably was definitely not as far advanced or even comparable to the UK 10 years ago. So if you picture 10 years ago when it started, it was probably like any other European country. I think what helped us set ourselves apart is our absolute laser focus on the customer. If the customer wants it, we should have it every time. And growing in the Czech Republic, what we were able to learn was, number one, I think if you grow in a country that you're from, you can work out what the customers want and then slowly try different aspects. How big should the bakery and the butchery range be? How big should different parts of it be? How quick do people want delivery, or how late? Because I would have a view that people should have the right. It's everyone's human right to be able to get groceries within an hour, if not less. Like, I have a fundamental belief on that, right? Being in a country where we're able to test that, lower cost than, say, Western markets, allowed us to work out the most effective, productive way to optimize the unit economics of this business from the key metrics, and as a result, creating a healthy P&L. And taking those learnings, we then expanded to Hungary, to Austria, to Germany, to then keep proving that. And what we've learned through that journey is that automation is absolutely required later on. And that's the journey that we're on now.
Yeah, I mean, you did mention costs, which I think, labor costs are obviously lower in Czech Republic and Hungary, which is where Rohlik is profitable. That's an advantage. There's many skeptics that say that in Western Europe or in the US, where labor is double or triple the cost, e-grocery will never reach profitability unless customers are willing to pay high delivery fees. But actually, recently, late last year, you announced that you reached profitability in Munich, in Germany, which is a huge achievement. So is this something unique to Rohlik, or is e-grocery at an inflection point globally?
No, I think it's at an inflection point for sure. It's not unique. We've just proven that you can do it. And there's been no magic with having a fantastic customer assortment, having the right proposition across assortment and delivery, not milkman routes, not next day, same day. And it's about, like I said, it's about leveraging the key aspects between CM1 and CM2 and understanding what costs you the most, which is basically labor, and then automating it that works for your business, not automating it for the sake of UPH. Businesses that have extremely high UPH are often struggling to fundraise or are pulling out of markets. We focus on good productivity, but with the customer first. A great example, should you have a butchery? Obviously, in continental Europe, I'm Irish, right? People like sliced hams and stuff. It's not really a thing in the UK and Ireland, and but that's really important. Obviously, I would love to automate that. Obviously, I would love to put everything into, I've obviously but the customers want it, and so at the cost of productivity, I'm choosing to invest in the customer because that's what they want, and therefore the customers come back. The customers are sticky, and that's what's really important for us as a business. So we have proven that we are able to deliver in Q4 of 2023, we are able to deliver an online grocery order profitably to a customer same day, and we continue to do so.
And not just last year's quarter, but also this year.
Yeah, and ever since. And ever since, and more. That number keeps getting bigger, right? So really watch the space, and it is all it's all linked to, a significant amount of it is linked to investment in automation and driving a business using data, looking at the key inputs, understanding the P&L outputs, like waste. Great example, I use it every time. It's very important from a sustainability perspective as a business. I don't want to waste food. It's literally wasteful. But with our focus as a leadership team and as a business on the key data points that drive cost, enabled by fantastic automation like yourselves, we're able to deliver a fantastic P&L. And online grocery is all about, they say retail is detail. Jesus, it is detail. And then some.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing I want to touch on. You mentioned customer service a lot in this conversation. Obviously, we spoke about Rohlik's amazing value proposition in Czech Republic, 15-minute slots, 90-minute deliveries, a very wide SKU range. When you first entered Germany, you did have a slightly more restricted offering. So instead of 15 minutes, you had 60-minute slots. I believe 3 months ago, you rolled out 15. You offer 3-hour delivery there instead of 90 minutes, I imagine because that has to do with the density of cars and how many deliveries that go out. So probably sooner or later, you'll offer 90 minutes as well, which for what it's worth, even 3 hours is very fast. Tell me a little bit about why did you decide to roll out these features gradually instead of offering them all at once to customers in Germany?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of actually how you grow in a market. So when you're going into a market, there are many things going to a market. You need to go in and establish a brand. Then you need to find the right assortment and build those relationships. You need to go find a warehouse. You then need to automate your warehouse. You need to get your car. So there's a lot that's happening, right? One of the key things that's really important to us is not breaking the customer contract. So like you said at the beginning, we have 15-minute slots and we're never late. And we always want to be like that. So when you go into a new industry or a new country or a new city and you're learning traffic, you're learning where the orders are coming from, you're learning the distance of where people are ordering from where your warehouse is. And remember, online same day is hard because next day is super easy because you kind of know where the grocery orders are going tomorrow and you can route accordingly. I don't know where the orders are going to go in 3 hours, right? And that's quite different. So it's about a gradual phasing of rollout when you are growing into a new market. And I think that's a reasonable, pragmatic approach. But ultimately, getting to the same proposition that we offer in Czechia and our mature markets is absolutely where we're going to go.
Vineta, this was super insightful. I feel like we can continue talking for hours, but we're going to have to end it here. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Beyond the Pick is brought to you by Brightpick. We care deeply about improving supply chain resilience, and we hope these stories inspire you to view your supply chain as a source of strength, not risk. To learn more about how we improve supply chain resilience, visit brightpick.ai, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. See you next time.